Hello guys, this is your friend Naruto Audio Fanfics and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto had 3 lovers: Hinata, the wild Anko, and the elegant Kurenai and build harem. Part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Alright everyone, let's head back to the house and see how the bridge is going. We might be able to leave tomorrow morning. Everyone stood up and stretched, Kurenai keeping the cloak and pulling it away from Naruto when he went to grab it, causing him to smile and turn away, letting her have it much to her delight. Naruto takes point on the walk, with Kurenai to his side, Shino next to Sharan and the last two together, each with their own conversation between each other. Kurenai decides to grab Naruto's hand and entwines her fingers with his. He looks down, then turns his attention to her eyes, and smiles at her before tightening his fingers a little. Smiling, Kurenai falls into step with him, and they make their way back to the house with everyone in tow behind them. Shino looks up seeing his sensei grab for Naruto's hand, smiling seeing them both happy, especially Kurenai. She was like family, and she's been stressed out lately, with the team and missions, along with Asuma bothering her. Turning, he continues the conversation on the Kaikachu bugs with Sharan, who seemed a bit interested in them. Hinata looks up and smiles with a little bit of jealousy but lets it go as she sees her sensei smile, one that was serene. Kiba noticed her grab his hand and just sighed. Turning back to Hinata, he looked around noticing she disappeared. Looking up, he noticed she went up to their sensei. Taking a few extra steps, he weaves himself into the conversation with Shino and Sharan. Kurenai-sensei, you seem cheerier than normal. Naruto heard this and grinned, while Kurenai blushed and looked over at Hinata. Do I? Getting a nod from Hinata, Kurenai thinks it over. Yay, I guess I seem better than normal. And sensei? Gaining her attention, Hinata continues. What about Asuma-sensei? Kurenai flinches ever so slightly, while Naruto mentally sighs, and loosens his grip on her hand a bit. Not going unnoticed by the red-eyed beauty next to him, who also sighs and turns back to her student. Well, we were never together, only dated. Even so, he bugged me too much, it got annoying after a while. A date once in a while wasn't so bad, but we never hooked up. Hinata nodded but Kurenai continued, for Naruto's sake. And he'll just have to deal with it somehow, I guess. There wasn't much between us, and that wasn't about to grow anytime soon. Raising her hand with Naruto's interweaved in it. Besides, as you can see, I think I found someone else. Asuma can do the same. Kurenai didn't once look at Naruto, besides his hand of course. Hinata smiled. She made her sensei explain that specifically so Naruto wouldn't be too caught off guard when they go to the village. Moving back, she enters the confrontation with the other genin. Kurenai looked up at Naruto and saw his face start to soften slightly, as it had hardened when he heard about Asuma. Did he think I was using him? Tightening her fingers around his hand, she felt him do that same, albeit not as much as she did. Looking forward, Naruto notices the house come into view. Gently he pulls his hand away from hers, but she tightens her grip on his. When he looks, she shakes her head while opening the door and letting the genin in first. Following the genin, she pulls the boy attached to her hand along with her and he shuts the door behind him. Entering the kitchen, no one was inside. The team moves into the living room where everyone is seated. Tsunami and Tazuna are in the same places as before, relaxing and watching the rest of them. Kakashi is sitting in a chair reading his porn as normal. Sakura is next to Sasuke on the floor, Sasuke looking at a scroll, and Sakura reading a book she brought along with her. All is quiet until Kurenai and the genin walk in chatting along with one another. Tsunami looks up and sees the two holding hands and smiles. Hey old man, let's go check the bridge, see if you want anything else done with it, or if it's finished. Naruto announces and watches as all eyes turn to him. Tazuna stands up and stretches as Kakashi, Sasuke, and Sakura keep staring. Eyes travel down his arm, to his hand. Connected to Kurenai, Kakashi blinked and along with his students followed the arm up to Kurenai, who looked a bit uncomfortable but otherwise fine. They noticed the cloak she wore and how she seemed more relaxed. Kakashi dropped his porn, Sasuke dropped his jaw, and Sakura just stared. The Ice Queen is with him. I mean, he is Minato's son, but, oh whatever. Kakashi picked his book up and continues his read. He got someone like her. Gritting his teeth, Sasuke scowls. How is he so powerful? How can he get what he wants? Damn it, I'm an Uchiha, I deserve to get what I want. He's with Kurenai sensei now. Does that mean he's better than Sasuke? She thinks on this for a bit and shrugs, going back to reading. Yay, let's go check the bridge, brat. Tazuna smiles and follows Naruto out of the house, along with Kurenai and Kakashi, who told the genin to stay behind as they'd be back in a few. On the way, Kakashi read his porn and Tazuna was talking with Naruto about visiting once in a while if he could. Kurenai was watching ahead as the clones seemed to be finishing up. Hinata lays down on the chair Tazuna had and notices it was still warm, grabs a blanket and snuggles up. Kiba and Akamaru take to the floor on a blanket and the puppy curls up next to the boy. Shino sits down by Tsunami's feet and converses with his bugs in low buzzing noises. Sharon takes a seat by his teammates and pulls out a scroll he got when he was younger, reading up on his bloodline and sighing at how he doesn't have it yet. Sasuke drops his scroll and looks up. What happened out there when you guys were out? Shino was the first to respond. Not that it matters, we trained a bit, and had a nice walk, along with a relaxing rest. Sasuke looks over at him and scowls. Yay. Well, you must have seen him train. What did he do? Sharon takes his chance to speak up. From what we could see, created a few hundred clones and had an all-out brawl, them versus him. On top of water no less, he then took a dip in the lake. Continuing his reading, he could feel Sasuke's gaze on his skull. What? Sasuke could do that no problem, he's nothing special. Sakura offers her 2 cents, and almost everyone glared at her. Well, then he also grabbed Kurenai sensei and they both seemed to have a good time underwater, evidence from their laughing. Hinata commented and Sasuke swiveled to her. He's one hell of a guy, stopped me dead in my Gatsuga, one-handed seals no less. Long as he takes care of her I don't mind him with our sensei. Kiba smiles at this and Sasuke turns to him, growling. He can't be that strong, he's not that much older than us. Sasuke fumes and picks up his scroll, intent on figuring out this jutsu before they left. Tsunami picks up a book that Naruto seemed to have dropped before they left to train earlier. She opens it to the inside cover and notices it's a bingo book for Iwa, Kumo, Aim, Kusa and Kiri. Everyone in this book is in all of the others, and have a huge bounty on their heads. Turning to a bookmarked page she looks at it, and almost drops the book, catching herself at the last moment. There in the picture stood a cold and stoic-looking boy, with a cloak and pants, silver with black flames and red trim. Along with 2 belts, forming an X in front of his pants. Taking the time she started to read the entry. Name: Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Alias: Nature's Wrath. Status: capture or kill on sight, if alone, flee. Description: blonde, shoulder-length hair. Silver pants with black flames and red trim. Definite whisker marks on face, 3 on each cheek. Belts crossing over pants, makes X. Black cloak, whirlpool crest holding it closed. Abilities: seems to be able to use every element, but cannot combine them. can turn into animals that he has met and studied, are killed. Ninjutsu. High Jonin in all categories. Taijutsu. Low Jonin. Genjutsu. Mid Chunin. Kenjutsu. High Chunin. Fuinjutsu. Mid Jonin. Bounty. 20 million ryo. Reason. Destroyed 3 villages within Kumo. Took out a hunter team in all villages. Took out half of Iowa, no casualties. Son of Yondaime Hokage of Kanahagakure. Killing the Yondaime Mizukage. Tsunami couldn't believe it. Naruto. A criminal. Or, was it the other way around? Were the villages the criminals, and Naruto taking care of it? Either way, he helped them, she doesn't care. Closing the book, she hides it away from everyone else, and sighs, getting another piece of dango. Reaching the bridge, Tazuna looked on in awe. It took him a day to do what his hired help could do in a week. This looks great. I'd say there's only a few things that need to be added, but other than that it's done. Tazuna smiled as he looked over at Naruto, who beamed at the praise. Well, tell me what to add and I'll do it while we sleep. Tazuna shakes his head. No, sorry Naruto, but this is something I want to do with a few helpers from the village. Grinning, Naruto nodded and released all the clones. Kurenai took the chance to go to the bridge and look over the edge, down it into the face of the water. So Naruto, you're heading back with us to Konoha, correct? Kakashi put his porn back and conversed. Sighing, Naruto nods. I suppose it's about time I head back there. If things don't end well, I can just leave again. Sparing a glance at Kurenai. Or I'll stay, for one reason or another. Kakashi, noticing his glance, keeps quiet. That should relieve the Hokage. I'll send a messenger ahead to alert him. Naruto interjects. Actually, keep it a secret. I want to surprise the old man myself, if you don't mind, Kakashi-san. Shaking his head, Kakashi smiles under his mask and looks over the water, seeing the sun starting to set in the reflection. Well, the bridge looks great. Coming back from checking the other side. Let's go back home. You probably want some rest and I don't want to be out here long. Tazuna started walking back to the house, and everyone followed in tow. Pulling the door open, everyone dropped off their shoes and went to the living room, which seemed a little crowded, until Tazuna brought in a few more chairs. Kakashi, Kurenai and Naruto taking the chairs, with Sharan taking the last one, leaving Kiba, Sasuke and Sakura on the floor. None caring about losing the chairs. Kakashi set his head on his hand and looked over everyone. How about introductions, for the new addition to our group? It will pass some time, maybe we can chat about some thing. Slowly he stopped, noticing everyone staring blankly at him, excluding Naruto, who pulled out a scroll and started writing in it, taking a thinking pose every few minutes. Well, we could do something more fun, telling stories, for example. Like scary stories. Or, Kakashi shut up again, noticing everyone's eyes now looked dull. Naruto seemed to jump slightly and scribble furiously, gaining a few people's attention. Looking up, he sees a few people looking at him. What? Did I disturb your storytelling? Grinning, he watched as a few scowled and Sakura went far enough to throw her book at him. Mistake. Reflex seemed to be quicker than a book hurled across the room, which was now pinned to the ceiling by a few senbon, 2 shuriken, and a kunai. With a shuriken holding the book into the wall, and the kunai stabbing into it, and a senbon going through the loophole on that, the rest just made the book a pincushion. Whoops. Keep your things to yourself, Pinky. Naruto coldly states and goes back, finishing up his scroll and setting it away with a smile. Sakura slides up to Sasuke and watches him read, to which amazingly the Uchiha didn't move away, too engrossed in the scroll. Sighing, Naruto relaxed more into the chair, slumping and setting his head onto his hand, staring out the window across the room. Kakashi pulled out his book and kept reading, a faint blush on his face. Kurenai snuggled into the cloak that she still had on, and seemed to curl into herself on the chair. Tazuna fell asleep on the chair, along with Hinata in hers, and Kiba with Akamaru. Tsunami fell asleep also, curled up with Shino, who was either asleep or very still, and didn't look too uncomfortable. Sharon seemed to be trapped in his book and didn't want to be disturbed. After looking around, Naruto looked at the time, and noticed, since they got back from the bridge, that time had flew by. It was almost 10 at night now, and they got back before 7. Time flies when you're staring at people, nay. Naruto stood up and popped his neck, back and shoulders, eliciting a sigh from his lips and getting the attention of Kurenai. I think I'm going to bed, for anyone who's awake enough to listen. Turning and walking up the stairs quietly, he takes to an empty room, setting up a bed, setting down a pillow and yawning before laying down on the blankets he set. Contrary to what he would normally do, he grabbed a blanket and pulled it over himself, just liking the feel of a cloth around him as he slept. Creating a clone to turn the light off, he tried to get comfortable. Unfortunately, he couldn't drift to sleep for a while and decided to lay awake staring at the ceiling. Thinking on the last few days, he smiles. He found Kurenai, albeit not really together. He has feeling for her, and hopes she does him. With that thought on his mind, he slowly starts to drift to sleep. Naruto. Kurenai opened her eyes and watched him go upstairs, seeming to mumble something her sleep-clogged head couldn't quite get. Yawning, she sits up and rubs her eyes, unwrapping the cloak, and standing up she notices the cold. Shivering, she stretches and wraps the cloak back around herself. Slowly but quietly she makes her way upstairs and looks in a few rooms, finding them empty. After getting halfway down, she wonders if he even came upstairs at all. Finally reaching the last few doors, she sees one open a crack, and takes the chance of looking in there before giving up. Looking around on the beds, she didn't see him. Sighing, she started to turn around, and spotted a blob on the ground. Taking a closer look, she saw Naruto, and smiled, squatting down and nudging him slightly. Someone just had to wake me up. I was damn near asleep and someone comes up here. Looking at who woke him groggily, he sees Kurenai and lets out a small sigh, being as it's her and not someone else. Smiling, he sits up. Did you want something, Kurenai? She seemed to shift a bit and nod before yawning. Tired. Grinning at her nod. Again. And you wanted to sleep with me here? Another nod. Naruto scoots over, allowing her room, but she stands up before she got in, taking the chance to move the cloak, folding it and setting it on a bed. Naruto could see her goosebumps that accumulated on her legs. Taking a quick walk, she turns to the bathroom and changes out of her clothes, leaving her in her fishnet shirt, with built-in bra, black panties and a pair of shorts over them. Of course she didn't take off the beautiful necklace around her neck. Picking up her clothes, she walks back into the room and sets them on the cloak. A slight blush adorned her cheeks as Naruto watched her slide in next to him, her petite body fitting next to his with room to spar on the makeshift bed. Naruto slid down and rested his head on the pillow, allowing her to situate herself as she sees fit, before getting comfortable himself. Kurenai turned around a few times, not getting too comfy, before sliding up to Naruto, and feeling his warmth. Grabbing him around the waist, she pulls herself onto him, letting his warmth fill her also. Looking up, Naruto blushes slightly, seeing her chest slightly push up from her shirt, being as it's pushed against him. Turning his attention to her face, she raises an eyebrow at him and giggles when he blushes a bit harder. Laying her head on his chest, she rests an arm across his stomach, letting it rest on his hip, parallel to his waistband. Her other hand wrapped around under his neck. His arms instinctively went around her, one on her upper back, and the other on her lower back, in the small arch she created by laying on him. Her shirt, he noticed, rose up slightly when she laid on him, so his hand was touching her lower bare back. Smiling, Kurenai found a way to look up at him, moving her hand a bit and stroking his whisker marks gently with her thumb and forefinger. Slowly, with increasing volume, he began to purr, and ever so slightly rub against her hand. Giggling, Kurenai watched for a few minutes, before yawning and resting her hand back on his waist. In turn, he moves a few strands of hair from her face, and tucked them behind her ear as she closed her crimson eyes with a smile. "Good night, Naruto-kun," she mumbled, and Naruto smirked. "Good night, Kurenai." She barely noticed how he didn't use a suffix, and was slightly disappointed, for the few seconds it took for her to fall asleep anyway. Naruto smiled and watched her sleep for a little bit before taking to sleep himself and letting it claim him. The only things to be seen were houses, all blue, with a symbol on every house. A fan, half red and half white. Walking through the complex was a small boy, no older than 5, blonde-haired, tattered clothing. "Leave now," a hushed voice said, and the boy quickly spun around, but seeing nothing, the boy just kept walking down the streets. "Now, you must leave, before anyone sees you, go." The boy spun faster this time, on alert, but nothing was there, just darkness. "I can't find a place to keep safe. I need to run. Run or die, and I will not die, not to these people, not the ones in this village, my supposed home." The boy ran deeper into the complex, seeing red dots throughout the area as he runs. The dots seemed to glow as he passed them, they followed him. Launching into a fallen-over barn, or shack, the boy huddled into a corner and sat, pulling a dirty cloth over him, and watched for a minute before his eyelids shut themselves and he was out. "I told you it would be too easy. Fugaku. So you had. Good work, Shubi. Get off to your mission now, leave the rest to me." The smaller one left and tore out of the complex to carry out his mission. Meanwhile, the older one, Fugaku, took to bending over the boy. "Soon, boy, soon." Grabbing the boy, he dragged him into a basement of the closest house. Later in the night, few that listened close could hear screams of pure fear and pain. Mostly it was confined in the walls of the complex, but one red-eyed shinobi that wasn't part of the clan could hear, as she was walking home from dropping her friend off. Wanting to see what it was, but not willing to go into the complex, the woman took to the street that was a faster route to her house. Kurenai woke up with a start, not knowing what she just saw. She was sweating, and breathing hard. Taking a minute, she walks to the bathroom and washes her face, letting the cool water drain away the nightmare. Back in the room just feet away, Naruto was tossing and turning in his sleep, mouth slightly agape, breathing heavy as pain contorted his face. No, what did I do?" Struggling, the blonde boy couldn't get out of the straps holding him down. No matter how hard he tried, the man above him just watched from the window as others were huddled around him. He couldn't see much beside heads around him, he could feel. Oh, he could feel all right, the blades that pierced his chest, his stomach, one in each leg. The wires that cut at his wrists and ankles as he struggled even more ferociously, animal instincts kicking in. The liquid that seemed to slowly drip over and over on the middle of his stomach, the other liquids, that seemed to flow through tubes into his body. He could feel them, as fire in his blood, coursing through his veins. Just finish it. If we can change that ability he holds, maybe we can harness it. As of now, there's little he can do with it. Hopefully we can change that, in many different ways. A commanding voice said sternly from above them. Nodding, two of the figures in the room took out scalpels and started to pour liquids into certain parts of the boy's body. One figure jabbed a rod in the boy's neck, eliciting a scream, and injecting him with a purple-colored fluid. Turning away from the scene, Fugaku looked at a woman in the shadows. I must thank you for leading the boy here. If there's a way to repay you, I'd gladly help. There's no need. That demon is the blame for my family dying. He deserves it. The woman's eyes glow violet for a second before she disappears. Well, I really must thank you sometime. Kushina. Turning back to the only sounds in the house, he watches as they keep cutting and injecting the boy. The boy looked up, only seeing one thing, the deep red eyes that seemed to pierce his very soul, 3 black tomos spinning in each eye. Naruto shoots up from the spot he was laying, sweating profusely, more than his workouts gave him. Leaning his elbow on his knee, he rests his face in his hand. Why now? Why this? Why? Naruto looks up, amethyst eyes bloodshot, taking in the room. Sighing heavily, he drops back and lands with a thud onto the pillows he set. The thud was enough for Kurenai to hurry back. She left the bathroom already. Speeding up, she turns into the doorway, light hitting her face lightly as the moon shines. Naruto looks at the sound and stiffens quite a bit, seeing red eyes, not the fact they were almost pure red, but they were the same color. Quicker than she could blink, Naruto was up and in a defensive position, kunai out and ready to strike. Raising her hands, she kneels on the floor, telling him she surrenders. Wah! What's going on? Why is he acting like this all of a sudden? Kurenai thinks slowly as she stares at the man, eyes betraying anything she saw before, promising death. Nah, Naruto. Please. Put the kunai down. She spoke slowly, trying to get him to listen. After a few seconds, his eyes widen, more and more until he shakily drops to the floor, tossing his kunai back into the wall. Walking on his knees, he slowly moves towards her. Grabbing her face tenderly with one hand, he gasps, and pulls her into a hug she was completely not ready for, pulling her to him. Fast enough that they spun and Kurenai landed on her back, his face on her stomach as he grips at her shirt. She could distinctly make out him saying, "I'm sorry," slowly a few times, in a hushed voice. He seems so fragile right now. Slowly she grasped him and pulls him close, letting him know it's okay. He fell asleep that night, faster than any other night in his life. Keeping herself up for a while longer, she ponders what just happened, silently swearing to figure it out later. She slides the blanket up, taking a glance at the kunai in the wall, and falls asleep with the blonde boy on top of her. Waking the next morning, Naruto found himself more comfortable than normal, his pillow slowly moving rhythmically up and down. Not wanting to open his eyes, he tries to remember the night before. After a few minutes he remembered, his fear, his hate, the fear in Kurenai's eyes. Looking up, he finally opens his eyes, finding out just where his face was. Slowly, very slowly, Naruto tried to move away from the woman under him, who pulls him back, as her arms are around his back, fingers entwined, cutting off his escape. Naruto sighs, his head rests on her shoulder, face pressed against her. Moving his hand up, he grasps her face gently, moving a few strands of hair out of her face and stroking her cheek softly. He could distinctly see her head move ever so slightly to his touch. Nuzzling. Very cute, Kurenai, very cute. Naruto laid his other hand across her toned stomach, holding her hip. After moving his hand away from her face, he gently nuzzles into her neck. The sweet smell of roses, along with her scent, is intoxicating. Hesitantly he kisses her neck, once on her jaw, and another on her cheek. Feeling him move around and try to get up, Kurenai quickly pulls him down, fighting down her blush. She keeps up the act of sleeping. Unknowingly she began nuzzling into his hand as he stroked her. Holding back a shiver as his hand moves to her hip across her stomach, she wonders how her shirt rode up above her belly button. Shaking it off, she feels him pull his hand back and fights back another shiver as he nuzzles her neck, his breath streaming across her skin. Goosebumps slither across her arms and neck as he kisses it, moving up to her jaw. After kissing her cheek, he seems to disappear for a minute before she feels his breath on her ear. "Good morning, Kurenai-chan, enjoying yourself?" Quietly he whispered in her ear, causing her to stiffen and blush. Opening her eyes, she down at him, head still resting on her upper and shoulder. "Yes, I am actually, very much so." Smiling down, she watched him try to sit up, futile as she pulled him back down, causing him to blush, feeling her touch more of his face. Looking down, she noticed the built-in bra of her shirt was in its proper place, so she didn't say much, just blushed at the feel of his head pressed against it. "You're cute when you blush, Kurenai-chan." Kurenai for her part sat up and pushed him down, making him into her pillow. Tossing her leg over his, her waist at his knees, she rests her chin on his chest, staring into his eyes. "What? Don't like calling someone something so affectionate. I'm just not used to it, I guess. Never had someone to be affectionate with." Naruto smiled and stroked her hair as she laid her cheek against his chest. "But for you, I think I can make an exception to that." Naruto could feel her smile against his chest. "That's good." Pulling the blanket over them more, Kurenai rests a hand on Naruto's shoulder, pulling herself up a bit, head now resting in the crook of his neck. Wrapping an arm around her, he contemplated laying here all day, not wanting to get up. Kurenai sighed, letting herself relax as much as possible, feeling his heat flow throughout the blanket. Closing her eyes, she takes in his scent and breathes deeply, feeling his arms slide around her back tighter. Naruto smiled, seemingly taking to her idea, and closed his eyes also, while letting one hand slide through her hair, gently entangling it. Not many were up in the morning, Tsunami noted, wondering where the whirlpool and Rose are. She noticed that, along with everyone sleeping in the living room, there was two missing, and the doors stayed shut, the windows shut. It could mean only one thing: they took a room. Tsunami did one of the few things she could that morning, went out, grabbed some food, and came home to cook it. Deciding to try and pay him back for the meal, Tsunami made another breakfast, slightly different than the one she made the other morning. Holding it all on a tray, she took to the stairs, trying to find the room they were in. A sigh could be heard, followed by, "Kurenai-chan, I must be lucky to find someone like you." That was Naruto. She made her way down the hall and cracked open the door, seeing Naruto staring at the ceiling with the raven-haired Rose on his chest. Knocking softly, Naruto looked up and pushed a finger to his lips, letting a small hushed hiss breathe out. Tsunami smiles and walks in, setting the food down. Kneeling next to him, she takes a look at Kurenai and couldn't help but be a bit jealous. "I just wanted to thank you for the money you gave us, and that breakfast, it was delicious," she whispered to him. Nodding with a smile, he pulls a bit of hair from Kurenai's face and rests it over her shoulder, letting her neck show, along with the chain of her necklace. "It's nothing really. I'm returning most of the money. In fact, grab my cloak, and I'll give it to you now." Tsunami would have, but she was entranced by Kurenai's necklace. Following her gaze, Naruto grinned when he saw the necklace. "Not too big," he noted. "Yay. Sorry, Tsunami, but that was the only thing I wanted to keep from the raid on Gato's hideout." Tsunami just nodded and absently grabbed the cloak, handing it to him, who proceeded to take out the scrolls and open them up. Money, jewelry, documents, bank statements, and more dropped out, falling into neat piles, sorted by the scrolls. Tsunami picks up a few things and dropped them, thinking she was crazy for seeing it all. Turning to Naruto, he nodded. "Yes, it's all yours to do with. Give to the village and help prosper." Tsunami had a few tears in her eyes at this and said a very quiet, "Thank you." Naruto smiled and nodded again at her, grasping Kurenai lightly, running his fingers through her silk-like hair. Tsunami grabbed a bucket and put it all in there hesitantly, and put the bucket in the corner. Sliding around Kurenai, she hugged Naruto. Pulling back, she stood up with a renewed look on how the village was going to be. You should eat before it gets cold, come downstairs when you're done. Actually, I think me and Kurenai are going to stay up here, it's quiet, and we won't have to move. His grin grew as he talked about being lazy. You're welcome to come back up and chat though whenever you want to, just come knock. Smiling, Tsunami nodded and walked back downstairs, letting the door click behind her. Hey Rose. No reply. Come on Kurenai-chan, wake up, food's here. Again no reaction. Smiling, he let her slumber, gently grabbing the pendant and taking a better look at it. Just as he lifted it up from under her chest, her hand shot up and grabbed at his wrist. Looking up, her tired eyes find his and she releases his wrist, blushing. What was that? I try to wake you and you're blocking me out. I grab at your necklace, and you attack me. Grinning, Naruto lets her sit up, adjusting her shirt a bit, leaving the hem above her belly button, exposing her toned stomach. Yawning, Kurenai stretches one arm above her and uses her free hand to cover her mouth. Naruto grins at her. What? Oh, nothing, nothing. We should eat. Naruto gestures to the food, grabbing some and handing them to Kurenai and taking a mouthful himself. No, nothing. What was it? Kurenai set her food down, noticing Naruto somehow finished half his meal already. Swallowing, Naruto responded, nothing at all Rose, now eat. Smiling at her, he watches her pout and grabs some food, while he himself finishes up his meal, and grabs some tea. I wonder what it's going to be like, being back there again. Slowly he sips his tea, mind being occupied. Looking up, he couldn't help but smile. She's great, gorgeous, nice, caring, and she knows about me, I'm sure. Kurenai just ate mindlessly, thinking about finally getting home and telling her friend about this adventure she had. I wonder how long it will take before she leaves though. Naruto sighs softly and sips his tea again. Kurenai finishes up her meal and grabs her tea, also taking sips of it. Setting down her tea, she grabs his and sets it next to hers. Pulling his arms apart, she slides in between his legs, back to chest, and pulls his arms around her petite form. Smiling, he pulls her tighter and goes to grab his tea. Kurenai-chan, which one is yours? I'm not sure actually. Kurenai stared at the cups, identical designs, and close to the same amount of tea left in each. Shrugging, Kurenai grabs one, which happened to be Naruto's. Oh well, I'll take this one. Taking a sip, she could taste a slight sweet but spicy taste on the glass. Naruto shrugs and grabs the cup, tasting sweetness on the rim. I think you took mine, Kurenai-chan. Yay. Oh well. Kurenai sticks her tongue out for a second, takes another sip, taking in his taste. Naruto chuckles and takes another sip, looking out the window, and seeing the sun rays. Staring blankly along with him, they both watch as the sky sifts through colors, finally revealing the sun peeking out over the trees. Setting down his empty cup, Naruto wraps his other arm around her midriff, holding her hips, and her back against him. Anyone seen Kurenai and Naruto yet this morning? Kiba asked the table, which held everyone but Tsunami, who was laying down in the living room reading a book. Everyone shook their head, and Shino decided to go look for them, excusing himself and walking up the stairs first. Taking a look in a few rooms, he couldn't find them, then strode to the back, started there and going to the stairs. The first and second doors were empty, the third door he opened, contained the two he was searching for. Naruto's face was slightly in her hair, cheek on her head, staring out the window across the room. Kurenai, holding her cup of tea, looked over at Shino and smiled, motioning for him to join them. Nodding and sitting next to the two, Shino looked out the window, taking in the gorgeous scene that they were watching. Everyone was wondering where you were. We'll be leaving in an hour, if you were wondering. Kurenai nodded and Naruto, he noticed, looked a bit dazed. Yay, that's fine Shino, thank you. Would you like to stay up here for a while? Naruto politely commented. That would be nice thank you. Shino let a few Kaikachu bugs out to stretch their wings. Destruction bugs. Very useful. I've seen another clan like yours Shino, but not with them. Gaining the other two occupants' attention Naruto looked at the two sets of eyes. What? There's other clans with insects in them. Of course, you didn't think you were the only clan. No, I've seen bees, and spiders also. Shino nodded and watched his bugs take out the window before coming back and sliding into their shelter. I'm surprised you're not freaked out by this Naruto, everyone else usually is. Well, it just doesn't bother me, you're just like Kiba and his dog, companions, and they're like tools, living tools that can think on their own and follow you. They would be a great asset if anyone were to take the time and think about it thoroughly. Kurenai smiled when she saw Shino's face light up a bit at Naruto's compliment. Just saying something so simple, and he made Shino perk up, that's incredible. Though Shino, I did find a flaw in your clan, you rely on your bugs too much, just like every clan on their bloodline. The Uchiha, and Hyuga with their eyes are great examples. The Inuzuka are good, but without their companions not many jutsu can be used. The Akamaiki, they eat a lot, making them too slow, even if they use that to their advantage. The Nara, indirect sun with no shadow, are useless, and they have no taijutsu for them. The lesser clans though, without actual bloodlines, concentrate more on their own work and power not that gained by blood, but by sweat. Shino nodded slowly, while Kurenai was stunned. He was right, they all did have flaws, and so easily identified too. Grabbing the trays, Shino got up. Thank you, Naruto, I'll consider trying to find an alternative for that problem in my clan, if you would help me sometime I would appreciate it. Naruto just smiled and nodded, seeing the Aburame nod and walk out with a warning of a half-hour left. Kurenai sighed, not wanting to get up. Reluctantly she tore from his embrace and stretched her muscles, popping bones around her body, unknowingly making her shirt raise more. Giving Naruto a nice view of her back and firm butt as her legs stretched out, on her tiptoes. Kurenai yawned again and went to grab her clothes. Naruto intercepted her and gently pushed her against a wall, taking the time to kiss her sensually. Taking the chance she caressed his cheeks and wrapped a hand around his neck pulling him closer. Naruto pulled his hands from her shoulders, letting one rest on her neck and the other on her hip. Kurenai opened her mouth biting down on his like gently, giving him a sultry smirk before pushing him away with a last quick kiss and getting her clothes. Growling he chased her down the hall until she closed the bathroom door in his face, giggling the whole way. Naruto playfully growled again before going to grab his cloak. Kurenai came out, and strode to the room where they were laying, seeing Naruto looking over his belts and cloak. Hey we're about. Hey we're about. Naruto and Kurenai appeared, in a swirl of wind and rose petals respectively. To leave. Sakura stared at them as they walked up to the front of the group, Naruto not even sparing her a glance. Well, we should be going as soon as possible, we need to report the mission and get ready for anything else the Hokage may want us to do. Tazuna nodded at Kakashi and decided to take a stroll with them to the bridge, grabbing a book on the table. Tsunami and Inari wandered after them. As they walked down the streets, everyone got waves and cheers, Naruto got more so than the rest. This unnerved the Uchiha quite a bit, along with the Pinkett. Arriving at the bridge, there was a cloaked item, huge, about the size of a couple of fridges bunched together. This is our memento to you all for helping us. Tazuna grabbed the cloth and pulled, revealing a statue of Naruto holding Kurenai, along with Kakashi next to them. The genin were all seen slightly behind them all. Under the statue was an engraving, and it read, "To those that helped save this village, and a memorial to the completion of this bridge, and the lifting of Gato's curse. Sharingan Kakashi, Genjutsu Mistress Kurenai, Hyuga Hinata, Inuzuka Kiba, Aburame Shino, Uchisa Sasuke, Haruno Sakura, and Terumi Sharan. Lastly, thanks to nature's wrath, Naruto Namikaze, for freeing us from Gato, and restoring this village to its prosperous past." Everyone gawked at the statue. How they made this in just one night they'll never know. Even so, they were all more curious about Naruto's alias, Nature's Wrath. Turning to Naruto, Kurenai and Kakashi stared at him, silently questioning him. Tazuna came up and gave Naruto his bingo book back. "You dropped this a while ago. That's how we got your alias. Tsunami wanted it to be added." Naruto nodded and handed the book to Kurenai and Kakashi, opening the book to the bookmark. "I'll explain more later, in the village, if you wish." Both Jonin were awed by his status in the bingo book, blinked and nodded, handing it back to him, who put it in his pouch. Deciding Kurenai might not want him around, he thought up a plan. "I'll go search ahead for anything suspicious. I'll meet you all before the forest of Kana." Before anyone could say anything, he was gone, along with a gust of wind that messed up everyone's hair, even Kakashi's gravity-denying hair. Which was still gravity-defying, it was just slightly more sideways than before. Nothing exciting happened along the way. The two teams saw a few odd arrangements, most likely by Naruto running by. Nothing to be concerned with, yet. A few dead animals, seemed to be vicious looking. Kakashi had the distinct feeling of being watched but couldn't place which direction to look, so he just left it. No confrontation, no retaliation. Kurenai had been thinking over the nature's wrath, and who he is to her. How she had relaxed and let him in after such a short time. No one had been able to do that before, not that easily, or at all. Idly she wondered what would happen when they got back to the village, with Asuma and the Hokage, with her friend Anko, or the rest of the teams. Shino was simply contemplating how Naruto was reacting to him, seemingly a great friend. He soon just turned to his bugs and conversed with low buzzes, which got a few weird looks and one freak look. Sasuke stayed brooding about Naruto. The rest just walked, not really talking and taking in the scenery. It was a nice peaceful morning. While enjoying a comfortable walk, Shino allowed his bugs free roam, and Kiba allowed Akamaru the time to run around before getting into the walls of the village again. After what seemed like an hour with no sign of Naruto, Kurenai started to wonder where he could have gone off to. While he hadn't left his cloak, she could still smell his scent on her clothes, on her skin. The forest started to thin, and on the edge they saw what appeared to be a pure black panther, which seemed to be waiting for them on its haunches. 9 foxes swarm around it, as if living fire. When the two teams came into view, the panther didn't seem the least bit fazed. The foxes, on the other hand, acted lividly, causing the whole party to halt. The glowing eyes of the foxes take to each of them, caution evident within them, the will to fight noticeable. Kurenai was the only one to keep walking. The foxes began to growl softly, until the panther silenced them by picking up a paw and letting it fall, a dust cloud poofing up. Hesitant from the growls, Kurenai didn't stop, just slowed and knelt, slowing her pace, and slid up to the panther, smelling an intoxicating aroma. Smiling, she pet the panther, who in turn stayed still, but a small smile could be seen. The foxes seemed to dissipate into red smoke and disperse into the wind. Standing, the panther kept up with Kurenai, who was joined by the others. Soon the teams, plus Wild Cat, all find themselves up at the gate entrance, Azumo and Kotetsu guarding the gate as normal. Procedural, what's your business? Azumo asks without a care really, just eyeing the panther that Kurenai is petting. It's huge, up to her belly button while on all fours. Staring up with an amused animal smile, the panther notes Azumo looking at him. Just back from wave, mission successful. C rank turned into an A rank with the turn of. Kakashi looked back to see Asuma's team walk up, after finishing a mission just outside the village. Ah, Kurenai, Kakashi, good to see you. The chain smoker just pulled out another cigarette and lit it, taking a drag. Mission went well, I see. Asuma drawled off, taking in the look of Kurenai, along with the panther that seemed to be staring back at him. Taking a surprised step back, he clears his throat. Well, Team 10 back from a mission to find Tora. The two teams groaned and the panther seemed to sweat drop at this. Kurenai, you're looking lovely. Something seems different about you today. Asuma smiled a friendly smile. Too friendly. Kurenai could feel the panther start to get agitated. Yes, well, thank you. Turning to the guards, she made a show of standing up straight and moving her hair, showing the pendant, making sure Asuma saw it before continuing. Can we go in now? We must report to the Hokage. Yes, of course, sorry. Kotetsu smiled and opened the gate with Azumo, letting the three teams in. Shikamaru took the time to study the panther, for all of 3 seconds. The cat in his hands was the main problem. Choji barely glanced at it, leaving the fact that if he didn't disturb it, maybe he would be fine. Ino couldn't take her eyes off of it, the sun glinting off its fur, and a foreign animal she hasn't seen much of, especially in person. She blinked and looked away when she felt the awkwardness of its purple feral eyes, staring back, as if into her soul. She shivered, not liking the idea, and fell in step with the other teams and her sensei. So, Kurenai, how was the mission besides successful? Asuma attempted conversation with the Raven Rose. It was interesting to say the least. Noting she looked down at the panther as she was talking, he glanced at it to watch it look around the city. That's a nice cat you got there. When did you come by it? More like why the hell did it stay? Taking out a cigarette, he lights it up, taking a drag and exhaling loudly. Just on the road, it was following us and so I took it in. Smiling down at the panther, she rested a hand on its head. No one objected to this. Sakura seemed about to, but Sharon stopped her. Taking note of how she cringed at the smell of the tar-inducing smoke, the panther grinned, noting a rock in its path. A few seconds later it snapped its back paw, barely noticeable, and shot the rock up, hitting the cigarette and sending it into the air. First all was good, walking with the woman he was trying to date, smoking a cigarette, life's good. All of a sudden his cigarette is knocked into the air by an invisible force, sent spinning out of control and landed on the ground, where a civilian walked on it without notice. The hell? Kurenai noticed the exchange and had to try to help herself from laughing. After composing herself she turned back. What's wrong, Asuma? Motioning to his mouth, index and middle fingers slightly open in a V shape, he slightly pouted, hoping it was a fluke. He grabbed another and lit it, only to find the lighter didn't work. Using a small bit of fire manipulation, he lit it and took another drag. The panther used a bit of wind manipulation and knocked it out from his mouth, shredding it with a flick of its tail. Now Asuma wasn't one to get angry fast, but his cigarettes are his outlet for stress. Take them away and he's a ticking time bomb. Quickly he took another one out and lit it, taking a drag and pulling it from his lips instead of keeping it there. Look, mommy. That's a big kitty. Can I go pet it? Can I? Without waiting the child ran up and went to touch the panther, who used the dust with earth manipulation to cut out the oxygen for the cigarette. Growling softly, the panther stared at the kid for a second. Hold on. You need to show respect for the panther. They hold pride almost like the lions do, so ask him first and be respectful. Kurenai quickly interjected as the group stopped, taking in the scene, everyone in Team 10 tense, and the others looking curiously. Oh, I'm sorry, kitty, may I please pet you? The child held its hand out and let the panther sniff it, putting up the act. I'm so sorry. He got out of my sight. Kugi, you know not to run off like that, and be careful. The mother scolded her son, worried for his safety with the panther. Looking up apathetically, the panther nudged the boy's hand softly, letting him know it's fine. With a small squeal, the boy set out to petting the cat, scratching behind its ears, and giggling when it purred. Come on, Kuro, we need to go. Kurenai's voice split the air. The giggling stopped, but the smiling boy waved at them as they left to the Hokage's office. The panther looked up and gave the equivalent of an raised eyebrow, to which Kurenai used seals to answer. Just needed a name. Don't worry, Kuro, it won't stick. Maybe. Kurenai mentally smiled and laid a hand on the cat's head. The panther just snorted and kept in stride as they walked into and through the halls of the building. Teams 7 and 8, mission to Wave, the Hokage is expecting us. Kurenai spoke to the secretary, who nodded and gave the big cat an odd look. Team 10, mission to catch Tora, the Hokage is also expecting us. The secretary nodded again and let them through. Kakashi knocked and heard a low, enter, then opened the door. Walking into the top room of the tower, where the leader sat, they all stood at attention, even the panther sat slightly straighter on its haunches. The Hokage merely glanced at the panther and raised his eyebrow at the show of respect from the wild animal, that is before it jumped on his couch and laid down. Hinata looked at the panther and giggled, taking a seat by it and running her fingers through its fur. To which Kurenai glanced back at her, reminding her of where they were. Sitting up straighter, Hinata kept petting the panther, but looked more professional. Okay. Well, first is first, report, in ascending order. The Sandaime ordered and packed his pipe with tobacco. Team 7, led by Hitaki Kakashi, mission successful, we encountered an A-rank missing nin, Zabuza Momochi, and his apprentice Haku. Turning the mission form C to a rank, and are told to be paid as soon as they regain control from Gato, who took over and dropped the country into poverty. Kakashi spoke fluid and calm. Team 8, led by Yuhi Kurenai, mission successful, accompanied Team 7, led by Hitaki Kakashi. Stated quickly but calm, knowing everything was said, except one, and that was a surprise for the old man. Team 10, led by Sarutobi Asuma, mission successful, Tora was caught on the edge of the forest of death. Grabbing the cat, he hands it to the daimyo's wife, who was waiting the whole time, and crushed it into her chest. Legs could be seen flailing around, along with a tail, pinned straight. That's what you get, kitty. The panther thought idly, watching the poor cat suffocate. Very good, you're all dismissed. Team 7 and 8, you may have a few days off after your first C-rank mission. Team 10, I will see you sometime tomorrow, I'm assuming. Getting a nod from his son, the Sandaime took a good long drag from his pipe as Team 10 left, along with Kiba, Sasuke, Sakura, Shino, and Sharon. After the door clicked, the Sandaime addressed the rest in the room. I'm assuming you're all here for a reason, right? What is it? Asking professionally, he took a few more drags. What happened to the old man that used to run this village? This Sarutobi seems to be more cold, withdrawn almost. Within the span it took for the man to turn and look out the window, Naruto seemed to appear and took the place of the panther, in which Kurenai took the seat next to him. Hinata scratching behind his ears, and his arm around Kurenai's waist. It was at this time that Aruka came in the room from the back room, unnoticed by everyone present, to drop off more paperwork. Hey, old man. Long time no see. Don't I get a hi at least? Accompanied in between his small sentences was a low purring sound as Kurenai was stroking his whisker marks gently. A few things happen in only a few seconds. First, the Hokage dropped his pipe, and Aruka started to scream at the boy, before the Hokage's shattered pipe made its presence. All eyes turned to the Hokage, watching and waiting for his reaction. Slowly, ever so slowly, the professor brought himself to turn around, and just as slowly, his body reacted, first taking a look out of the corner of his eye and gasping. After the first glimpse, he spun half-circle as fast as any shinobi could, taking in the boy on the couch, not even noting Kurenai and Hinata. Minato. No, he died. That could only mean, oh dear, can it be? Naruto. Not believing his eyes, the Sandame slowly crept forward. Yay, it's me, long time no see nay. A smile crept up onto his face as the old man took Kurenai's place with his hand, feeling to see if it's true. I thought that as long as I met up with Konoha, I might as well come visit, or possibly stay. That so far is debatable. After taking a glance at Kurenai mid-sentence, Sarutobi finally took notice of her, eyes widening as the kunoichi blushed deep crimson. And of course, I've missed you, old man. It's been a while. I had to come see you at the very least. Nodding, the Sandame knew what he meant. If nothing happened between them, he would have come anyway, if nothing more than to see an old man like me. Smiling, the Sandame nodded again and sat back, more cheerful than anyone has seen him for a good 9 years. Well then, my boy, what do I owe this pleasure? Kurenai, Kakashi, and Aruka were stumped. The Hokage. Owing pleasure. Just what do these have in common? Just your time, old man, nothing more. I may decide to stay, if that's fine with you. Hiruzen couldn't do anything but smile brightly at this. Of course, I will give you your inheritance and you can move in there whenever you feel like it. Of course, this means. The Hokage was cut off when his secretary came in, took one look at Naruto and blushed. Don't forget the council meeting you were called to, Hokage. It will be starting in about a half hour. She closed the door after taking another glance at the feral man on the couch. Naruto noticed the Hokage sigh. Old man, what happened to you? You were the Hokage, now you're like, the council's bitch. Everyone gasped at his analogy, but the Hokage knew he was right. I mean, come on, they have more power than you now. And it's all cause of your laziness. You forget, this is a shinobi village, not some ransacked civilian place. You own this village, and you control it, old man. Everyone was stunned. This boy had just come in and basically talked down to the Hokage, to which he did nothing back. Aruka stared at the boy, slowly, his anger rising. Listen, you. Enough, Aruka. The boy is right. I have been slacking, and this is my village. The Hokage stopped him swiftly. You are also the god of shinobi. If I remember, you lived through 2 wars, and you're letting these pansies push you around, Sarutobi. Naruto continued, calling him by his name. To which the Hokage knew he was serious. His demeanor changed. He sat up on the couch, Kurenai holding onto his arm with hers, Hinata staring at his hand, Kakashi and Aruka dumbfounded. Yes, you are right, Naruto. I believe it's time for change, though I may need some help. They do have more power than me. So Naruto Namikaze, will you help me with this? Also, I would inquire as to how you know about the council and this village so thoroughly after so long. Smirking slightly, he answered with, Old man, you really think I'd leave and not have at least one spy in the village? If there ever was a chance, I'd want to return. They have my specific orders to just get information, nothing more, nothing less. Well, turning into Jiraiya already, aren't you, Naruto? Smiling Sarutobi reached over the desk, offering his hand to the boy. Naruto grinned, his old man back, nodding and getting up to shake his hand, Kurenai and Hinata in tow, he bows lightly. I'll be seeing you, old man. I presume I will be placed on a genin team. Just tell me which one soon enough. Call me if you need me, I'll arrive. Naruto grinned and grabbed Hinata's hand, leaving in a shunshin of snow that sparkled before melting into nothing. Kakashi, Iruka, you may leave, I have a meeting to get to. The Hokage grinned and walked out the door, a prideful aura around him. Appearing just outside the building, Naruto let go of both of them and stood facing them. It's been a while since I've been back, how about some nice food? Ichiraku's is great for ramen, I say we go there, anyone else in for it? Both women looked at one another and nodded to Naruto. Alrighty good, well it's this way so. He grabbed their hands and pulled them towards the restaurant at a normal pace. Kurenai looked over at Hinata, who looked a bit red and had a zoned out look in her eyes. Seems she has a crush on Naruto, this can't end well. Naruto moved the curtains away and sat down with Kurenai next to him, and Hinata on her other side. Oi, old man, 3 beef ramen. Naruto yelled into the shop. Hey, you can not come in here talking like that. Tsuki came around the corner and dropped the bowl he was cleaning, which crashed to the floor, shattering into hundreds of pieces. Naruto, he said in a low whisper. Ayame, get out here and serve our guest. After some murmuring and shuffling, a brunette teen walked out in with a pad and pencil. What can I get for you today? 3 miso, 2 beef, 2 chicken and some of your cinnamon tea please. A beef for me and some herbal tea. Miso please, with some honey tea. Quickly writing without looking up, Ayame walked to the back and prepared the food. Tsuki looked after his daughter and knew her depression, though wondered why she didn't look up at the customer. So old man, how's business been around here? Naruto asked, quietly taking Kurenai's hand. Kurenai looked over and saw Hinata grabbing chopsticks for them all. Well, it's been. Tsuki smiled at him. Not even close to as good as when you were here, but it's alright. Taking a quick look, he continued. She's been really down since you left, every year she gets like this. He motioned to Ayame, who was just finishing the noodles. Here you are. Ayame somberly set down the bowls and took a seat to relax. Itadakimasu. The three said in unison and dug into their food. So Ayame, how have you been? He could see her ears perk up slightly and she just shook her head. I've been alright, I guess. I miss my little buddy. Finally she looked up to see who was talking to her. Naruto. Jumping over the counter she hugs him, missing the ramen bowls, they both fell to the floor. Where have you been? Around, Ayame. Around. Smiling softly he patted her back as she got up and blushed. Good to see you're back, Naruto. You'll have to explain your trip sometime. She got back to work in a much more perkier mood than before, humming a tune. Taking his seat, Naruto glanced at Kurenai and saw her delicately eating her noodles and reading a poster on the far wall. Grabbing his chopsticks he makes his way to finish his ramen, done with a couple bowls in only a few minutes. Sipping at his tea he sighs contently. Seeing Hinata next to him and how she was eating almost identically as her sensei, he couldn't help but glance back at Kurenai, and back to Hinata, shrug, and continue with his delicious noodles. Setting his finally bowl down with a content sigh, he stretches, popping his shoulders and back. Well, taking a quick sip of his tea he notices it's almost gone. It's getting late, I guess I should find a hotel and get Hinata home. Quickly he finishes his tea and pays for the whole meal. Yes, that would be nice, thank you, Naruto. Hinata couldn't seem to keep her blush down at him being nice. Well then let's get going, Kurenai. Yay, I'll walk her with you. Hiyashi might be waiting at the entrance. Getting up, she stretches and finishes her tea. You know, Naruto, you never did say where you've been. Hinata takes up initiative to start the conversation. Well, I've kinda just been wandering around, not really set on one place in particular. Though I can foresee the hell that will be raised by staying here. I'm almost positive I'll be called for a council meeting soon enough. Sliding his hands into his pockets, he take a comfortable casual pace. Naruto, you get jealous easily, don't you? Glancing at Kurenai, he grinned. Animalistic possession? I'm not sure, just seeing as we're dating, and you don't seem to like that Asuma guy, I just feel, air protective, I guess is the word. Slowly the blush on Kurenai's face rose, and he didn't miss it. He's sweet. I wish I could find someone like that. Hinata thought to herself as she smiled for her sensei. Well, I enjoy your protectiveness, just don't go overboard. Kurenai mock scolded him as they reached the Hyuga estate gates. Hinata, Hyuga, where have you been? A cold voice from behind the gates sounded out before they started to open up. I was just at dinner with Kurenai sensei. Sorry, father, I forgot to come tell you first. Hinata was looking a bit paler than normal and Naruto was wondering why. This is her family, why does it sound more like he couldn't give a shit about her? You would remember that if you came home after your mission like you said you would. I heard from Neji that you were back when he saw you in that filthy ramen stand down the street. Glaring as the gates finally opened, Hiyashi took notice of the new arrival to their group. And who might this be? Hiyashi stared, right into purple steel eyes, bearing a glare right back at the Hyuga head. Hiyashi Hyuga, twin to Hizashi Hyuga, branch member, sent to Kumo as retribution for killing an ambassador. Head of the main branch family, wielder of the Kekkei Genkei, the Byakugan. Genin team consisted of the 4th Hokage, Minato Namikaze, and Sume Inuzuka. Naruto called off almost in a trance. His cold eyes darted back up to Hiyashi's as they slowly turned into that of a hawk. Hiyashi took a step back and activated his Byakugan instinctively, taking a look at the boy's eyes as they morphed, chakra seeped into them, then just stopped, as if the transformation was a part of his body that once changed, could sustain itself. Boy, who are you? The head Hyuga states, taking a slightly defensive stance, barely noticeable to untrained eyes, not Naruto's hawk eyes. The precise movements he took showed he was ready to strike, or defend at a moment's notice. Smirking, Naruto scoffs. Why don't you add 2 and 2? You were on his team. He looks like me. I'll give you a hint, he was the Yondaime. Seeing that Hiyashi took a deliberate step back, he continued. Still don't know. My mother left me for dead, in the hands of one of the clans. Hiyashi's eyes widened, the shock so great he actually deactivated his Byakugan. I should have noticed by your eyes, you're her child. Minato's son. He could barely wrap his mind around the concept. If you were left with a clan and lived, you must have gotten away, meaning it had to be a clan that was either too nice, or yes, or wiped out. Fugaku wanted me as his test subject, his plaything, so I could become his weapon. Naruto slowly let his eyes change back to his normal red-lined pupil. Hinata couldn't help but gape. Her father was just talked down to, and he's not retaliating, on the contrary, he's being civil. She gasped when she heard about the Uchihas and glad for their demise at the hands of the clan prodigy. Kurenai, on the other hand, was thinking deeper into the situation. Naruto was held in with Fugaku, used as an experiment, and suddenly out of nowhere Itachi kills them all. It makes no sense, unless of course, Itachi wasn't on his father's side, and on the village's side instead. Which could mean only one of a few things: either he took it into his own hands, or he was ordered to kill them all. Thinking back to the dream she had, she gasped. She was by the Uchiha complex when she heard the screams. Glancing at Naruto, She grabbed his hand gently and moved towards him. Hiyashi did not miss this, he was acutely taking in the situation. His daughter seemed to be infatuated with the boy, who appeared to be with her sensei. This could not end well for his daughter. Yes, well, I'm sorry I couldn't do anything back then. I wish I could have, but the council stopped everyone's actions to help you. I know, I may have been young, but I noticed that much. Naruto growled out at the council members, but Hiyashi couldn't help but flinch. Well, I'm assuming you have things to do, Namikaze. You've been gone for a long time now. Come, Hinata. There's training to be done, and Neji has been waiting in the dojo for a little while now for that match I wanted you to partake in. Taking a sidestep to allow her in, he nods to Naruto. Yes, father. Goodbye, Kurenai sensei. Naruto. Smiling back at the two, she walks into the gate, dreading what was to come. Watching the gates close, Kurenai turns her attention to the teen attached to her arm. Naruto. The past is the past. I'll walk you home and I need to find a hotel for a while. Staring blankly forward, he lets her guide him to her house. Stealing glances at him, she worries for him, past or not it still happened to him and could affect him. Naruto feels her eyes glance at him and just sighs inwardly, hoping she doesn't act on her thoughts if they're too far out there. Walking through the park, some kids stared at Naruto. Kurenai giggled when they did. Some had wide eyes, as did their parents, thinking the Yondaime was back from the dead. Lacing his fingers with hers, he feels the nightly wind flutter through his cloak. Seeing a woman with purple hair walking towards them, his senses instantly flare up with the smell of snake, stiffening his eyes transform on instinct into tiger's eyes. Kurenai smiles seeing her old friend, but it falters when she feels Naruto stiffen a bit. Hoping he isn't like everyone else, he was through almost the same thing, right? Anko was happily eating her dango at her favorite shop. Pulled out the money for her dining and took her last piece to go. Walking down the street, she decided to walk through the park. It was nice and it always had a good sunset if you sat on the right bench. Munching on her dango, she looked past the park to see her friend, Kurenai, walking with some guy, who just put his hood up and laced his fingers in Kurenai's. Slowly she stops as the wind blows past her and she sees Kurenai smile at her. An odd feeling of happiness for her friend but blankness for herself flooded her. Looking to the teen, she noticed his eyes shining purple, almost glowing. They seemed to be primal, cat-like slits as they stared at her. Shrugging it off, she started walking again, intent on talking with Kurenai for a bit, maybe spending the night at her house like usual. The teen really perplexed her. Kurenai wasn't dating, was she? If so, where did she meet this one at? Kurenai was on edge. She didn't know what Naruto was thinking, or if instincts alone made him stiffen, but she was worried. Slowly she and Naruto made their way and met up with Anko, though she couldn't shake this paranoid feeling she was getting. Kur-chan. Anko screamed as they got closer together. She came up and hugged the rose right out of Naruto's grasp. Surprisingly, he didn't growl. How was your mission? She pulled away and let the raven-haired woman answer. Glancing at the unknown boy, she answered. It was eventful to say the least, but it was a success. Gato was controlling Wave and we had to get through Zabuza and his apprentice before killing Gato and taking it back. Well, that's good then. Anko glanced at Naruto quickly, who caught the glance as he was staring at her. Was wondering about staying at your place tonight, like old times. Yay, that's fine. I'm just going to take a shower and relax a bit tonight and for the next few days. Smiling, Kurenai took the chance to start walking and noticed they both followed her. She could tell Naruto was still staring at Anko. This discerned her a bit. I believe I should be leaving for my hotel soon enough. Naruto chided as they walked. To which Anko thought his voice was heavenly, and Kurenai was reminded of how he sounded on the bridge. I'd invite you to stay at my house, that is if you don't mind sleeping on a couch. Staring back at him, she awaits his answer. Contemplatively, he rolls it over in his head a few times. I assume I'll also be making breakfast then. Kurenai grinned and turned around. Of course, why wouldn't you make breakfast for two lovely ladies? She noted how he glances at Anko when she said that, but grinned wider nonetheless. Just kill the snake, bitch. Take her out, 10 seconds, tops. Shut the up, I'm not going to listen to you. Feeling his body start to burn, he continued the walk with the two. If you don't, I'll make you, human. Growling deeply, he feels a major headache coming on. Brat, her master did this to me, to us, get revenge for us. It won't take long, she won't even notice until too late, just drive your blade through her heart. Feeling the burning intensify, his growling starts to raise in volume, still too soft for his companions. If you don't shut up, I'm going to what? Huh, human, what will you do? Sighing, Naruto takes a breath and relaxes his body, pushing the heat back to his stomach. Hearing a loud scream in his head, he grins. Serves you right, bitch. Grinning to himself as he turned the burning chakra right back. Damn you, I will get you for this, human. Giving no thought to the femininity of the voice, he continues walking with the two. Glancing at the purple-haired Kunoichi, he scowls. Still, she smells too much like him, too much snake, setting my instincts off. Shaking his head, he rests his hands behind his head and walks on. Glancing worriedly at the boy, Kurenai couldn't help but feel paranoid. He's scowling and grunting, as if somehow internally in pain, and fighting with himself. She notices how he keeps glancing at Anko, and can tell she notices too, if the fidgeting is any indication. Wondering if this was a good idea, she unlocks her door and lets them both in. A small house, with a single bedroom, bath and kitchen. It had a homey feeling every time she opened the door and came in. Well, come on in, you two, I'll make some tea, you two sit in the living room. Motioning to the puffed up pieces of furniture showing how comfy they are. Taking to the two-person love seat, Naruto takes his cloak off and sets it over the armrest. After taking his shoes off, he sits and stares out the window, his eyes still that of a tiger, red seemed to have seeped into the iris from the edges. Going to the one-person chair across from the love seat, Anko took her shoes off and coiled her feet under her on the chair. Seeing Naruto glance at her, she takes a look, seeing the red start to slowly recede. In that instant she was filled with fear, before the red was completely gone, and he looked away back out the window. Wah! What was that? I couldn't move, the killing intent so accurate at me, I'm sure no one else even felt it. Taking the time to examine him, she notices how toned her is. Little to no fat at all muscle. Oval-like face with 6 horizontal marks, 3 on each cheek. His eyes were a deep amethyst, as they changed back to normal, a red ring formed around the pupil. Well-built body, toned but not so much to impede movement, the air around him held confidence, pride, and instinct. She shivered, feeling her body react to how he acted and looked. Damn, primal look, instinctive aura, that's damn hot, I'm not going to lie to myself, she's lucky. Grinning to herself, Anko took to watching Kurenai, hoping she'd hurry. Fidgeting a bit, she waits, and waits. Glancing at the door seconds before Kurenai came through, Naruto smiled and took his tea. Kurenai handed Anko her tea and sat next to Naruto for a few reasons, mainly she was straight across from Anko. So tell me, how have you been this last month or so, Anko? Grinning, she sipped her tea. Oh, just some assassinations and a few spy missions, really. Nothing big, the normal, you know how it is. Nodding, Kurenai smiled. The only thing out of normal is you coming back with this guy. She motions to Naruto. Other than that, nothing's really been going on for me. Taking notice that he didn't even acknowledge her, no glare or even glance, she scowled. Yay. Well, it's a long story and I'm willing to listen to it. Anko grinned as Kurenai seemed to fluster for a second before discreetly motioning to her neck. That's when Anko saw it for the first time, the necklace, and one thing that wasn't returned to Wave. Getting the hint of, later, Anko grinned and nodded. You know Gaki, I seem to recognize you for some reason. Naruto finally looked up at the snake mistress. Is it 'cause I'm the Yondaimi's son? Naruto said slowly like she was stupid. No, not that from somewhere else, I can't remember though. Thinking, Anko didn't notice he pulled out a bingo book and threw it at her. Glaring, she opened it to the bookmark, and read. Yay. That's where I remember seeing you once before. Damn kid, you got a nice bounty on your head. Naruto scoffed. It wasn't that great, not yet at least, maybe after letting it come up a bit he can do some things and get the bounty himself. Grinning at his own thoughts, he tries to figure out how. Zoning everything else out and sipping his tea. Feeling a something slither its way through his arm, he looks down, seeing Kurenai's hand grasp his arm. Looking up at her, he sees her smile. This is good tea, thank you. He smiled, knowing it's a bit late to say that. Laughing it off, Kurenai grins. Thanks, it's a new one I haven't had yet, though I've heard it's good. Glancing at the clock, Naruto sees how late it is, once again time flying when doing nothing. Also noting the time, Kurenai gets up and stretches, saying how she'd be right back and takes the cups to the kitchen. Anko, feeling awkward, once again gets up to stretch, eliciting a sigh from her bones. Glancing up, Naruto couldn't help but notice just how little she was wearing, that being, just a fishnet under the trench coat. Needless to say, he got a good eye full of her, and raised an eyebrow at her while she grins at him. Like what you see, Gaki? More like wondering how the hell you can fight or run without those causing some sort of discomfort or getting in the way. Naruto grins as she scowls at him. Wait a minute, was that a compliment? Or are you just with me? Anko glares. Does it matter? Statement which ended the quarrel as Kurenai came back. Well, it's getting late and I'm heading to bed. Naruto noticed she was just in her fishnet and shorts again. Remember, Naruto, you're making breakfast. Yay, whatever. Smiling, Naruto stood up and went over to the couch. Might as well try to sleep then, nay. Kurenai quickly grabbed him a blanket and pillow. If you need these, I'll set them at the foot of the couch. Seeing him nod, she leans down. Make a big breakfast, Naruto. Smiling, she kisses him quickly and sets off to the bedroom, Anko hot on her heels. Going to girl chat probably, she knows I don't need these, right? No sense letting them just sit there. Grabbing the bed dressings, he set up a moderate comfy bed and laid down, hands behind his head, and let his mind wander. Before the door could even shut, Anko was off. Okay, Kur-chan, I want details, out with it, girl. Smiling at her friend, now whatever do you mean, Anko? Grinning, she jumps onto her bed, feeling Anko jump after her and tackle her. Come on, Kur-chan, you know what I mean. What's with the Gaki? What's going on between you two? How did it happen? The details. With every question, she was bouncing while straddling Kurenai's legs. Okay. Calm down, Anko. Sit down and listen. Anko grinned. She loved gossip. Whether she could tell someone or not, she loved it all the same. Well, Anko, it isn't much, but we met on the mission. He saved Kakashi and his student Sasuke. Seemingly begrudgingly though, he doesn't like the Uchiha. He got me this necklace when we took down Gato. Well, he did. I took out some guards in the place. We took all the money, documents and jewelry. He gave everything but this back. Showing the necklace off a bit, she smiled. That's gorgeous, Kur-chan. What's it made of though? Diamond, emerald and ruby, he said. Giggling at Anko's reaction. That must be priceless. She grabbed at it and took a closer look. Yay, well, after that, We stayed out by the lake and I fell asleep leaning on him, I guess. He took us into the forest and let me sleep while it. Whoa, you mean you just fell asleep on him? You won't even talk to most of the men in this village, but you just meet him and sleep on him. Yes, I know, odd, especially for me. We woke up before the teams and our caretaker made us a special breakfast. Soon after that we went to train. Well, I trained the team. How does he train? Is it brutal, or is it casual? Well, brutal to you or I, but casual for him. I mean, unless you go up again 400 clones of yourself as training. Smiling, she saw her friend's eyes go wide as she fell and plopped on the bed. Holy shit. Anko bounced back up. He has to have the chakra of a cage or more, and stamina. Don't get me started, Kurenai. Blushing deeply at the implications, she shook her head. No, Anko, we didn't do anything like that. Anko pounced on her again. Oh, come on, Kur-chan, you can tell me him, didn't you? So long you couldn't stand it. Or was it that he couldn't stand it, huh? Anko. We didn't have. Huffing, Anko got off her. Fine. Can I continue now? She nodded. Good. After that we found out he was nature's wrath. Mind you, this whole time his clones were fixing and building the bridge. Anko nodded again, intrigued. Well, the second night he was with us, he went upstairs into a room while we all slept downstairs. That is until I woke up and followed him, still sleepy and all. Oh, of course. Blame sleep. Grinning, Anko motioned for her to continue. Rolling her eyes at her friend. Well, I slipped into these clothes. Motioning to the ones she wore now. And slipped into bed with him. I just couldn't seem to get comfy until I laid on him again. Nothing happened, I just slid onto him and fell asleep. He's so warm and his scent is intoxicating. Mixed together it's just like a natural sleep aid, welcomed or not. She laughs at how she fell asleep a few times unwillingly. You realize how uneventful this is for me, right? Anko stared blankly at her. You're the one wanting details on what happened. And nothing good happened. Anko whined. Well, there was that kiss when our caretaker made us breakfast. But you wouldn't like to hear about that. Grinning, Kurenai could see her friend brighten up. Come on, Kurenai, tell me what it was like. Grinning at her friend getting something good for once. Well, we made a bet and I lost. I had to do something for him. Anything he wanted. So he told me to close my eyes and he kissed me. At first it was nothing, but after a few seconds it was the most intoxicating, best kiss I've ever had. I was breathless by the end and I'm sure I looked higher drunk. Kurenai giggled, remembering that and the look on Anko's face. Oh, come on, Anko, it can't be that good. You heard his voice, right? She nodded. That's only a sample. It was just as good on my lips as his voice to our ears. Anko's eyes widened. If that's anything to go by, then it must have been good. Smiling a genuine smile, she looked at her friend. Kur-chan, I'm happy for you. Closing her eyes with the smile she felt for her friend, she plopped onto the bed again. If that's all, then I guess you really didn't have. Damn, and I was thinking you might be holding out on me now. Laughing with Anko, she couldn't help but see the time. Come on, let's sleep, it's getting late and I want to get up and eat some of his breakfast tomorrow as soon as possible. Turning the lights off, Kurenai slips under the covers, Anko right behind her. Kurenai laid on her back, being the comfiest position right now. Soon Anko slid up on top of her, cheek resting on her, fast asleep in seconds. Smiling, Kurenai rested her hand on her friend's hair. Good night, Anko. Letting her other hand fall on the snake mistress' arms, she fell asleep. Hokage-sama. A bear-masked Anbu appeared in the room as called. Yes, Bear. I need you to inform a Naruto Namikaze that he is wanted in the council chambers tomorrow at 1 o'clock. If you will pick him up, then you have the rest of the night off. Sarutobi smiled. Thank you, Hokage-sama. I will inform Namikaze tomorrow. Good night, sir. Bowing, the Anbu left in a swirl of leaves and the Sarutobi took a drag from his pipe. Yes, I think tomorrow will go well, my friend. Sarutobi stares at the picture of the Yondaime. Sighing, Naruto found he couldn't sleep. Being back here, all he could think about while on the brink of sleep was the Uchiha. The first few times he fell asleep for a few minutes, all he saw were the purple eyes of Onkashina. Glaring, throwing daggers with her eyes, ridding herself of this boy. Why is she always glaring at me? Naruto sighed again and threw of the other dream he had while trying to sleep. Somehow he got away. Maybe they let him to toy with him. It didn't matter, he was hungry, he wanted to get out. More than anything he was scared. He was so scared he couldn't even cry, all his tears wasted in that lab, as they called it. Move, move, come one legs, move faster. Glancing back, he saw no one was chasing him and settled down a little bit. Hiding in a bush, he pulled out the only thing he had on him, a rusted kunai. Making his way through the forest on the edge of the complex, he spotted a dog. He thought it was a dog. He didn't care, he wanted food and he was going to eat. Running at the oversized dog, he managed to get the upper hand and plunge his kunai into its back, before it growled and bit his arm. Not even screaming, he sliced the animal's stomach open, letting its organs fall out as it bled to death. Sighing, he sat down and stabbed the heart, ending its life, and stated to cut out the organs and skin the animal. Hearing a rustling, he looked back. 2 more managed to come by. That's when he realized these weren't dogs, they were wolves. Always in a pack of only a few. Picking up his kunai, he doubted he would make it out, but he'd be damned not to fight back. The 2 wolves charged in and one bit his leg, pulling him to the ground, and it led the way for the kunai to land perfectly into the wolf's heart. Feeling the jaw lax, he tried to stand, shifting his weight on the good leg. The final wolf lunged and Naruto ducked, but caught the wolf's paw on his head, flinging him back and dropping his kunai. Seeing its opportunity, the wolf lunged again and landed on him, arms pinned by its paws. It quickly went for the kill but stopped when the boy's body began releasing pheromones that was related to wolves, and his muscles started to change and contort. Jumping away, the wolf watched in morbid fascination as the boy transformed into a wolf himself. Naruto had passed out a bit ago, his body taking a mind of its own thanks to his bloodline. With all the grace of a wolf, Naruto's body lunged and sunk its teeth into the other wolf. Shaking it off, the wild wolf snapped at Naruto's front paw, nipping its already bloody wound. Growling, Naruto went for the kill, straight to the throat and latched on, shaking his head and throwing the wolf to the ground. Not taking the chance, he sinks his teeth into the wolf, tearing flesh and fur. His bloodline, along with hunger, led with instincts, he tore at the flesh and swallowed greedily, feeding off all 3 corpses. Shuddering, Naruto was glad he passed out. He didn't think he would have been able to do that otherwise. It took a while, but he finally got himself cleaned up. I can't believe they still found me though, even while I was inside the tree I dug out. Can't sleep. Sitting up, Naruto went to the bathroom and splashed water on his face. Why do I have this foreboding feeling that something bad will happen soon? Taking his time, he went to the kitchen and got a small cup of water, taking it with him to the living room and sat down sipping at it. Looking at the clock, he found it to read 3:15 hours and I still haven't slept. Doesn't look like I will. Let's see what she has for food, see if I need anything in the morning. Looking in the cupboards and fridge, he found he only needed a few things for the dango, and his secret spice to cook with. Good, I won't have to get much then. Sitting back at the chair Anko was in before, he grabbed a book on her shelf and started to read it. Nagato the Gutsy Ninja. He couldn't help but feel like he should know what this was about. He felt connected just reading the name of the character. Naruto noticed after flipping to the back that half the pages were blank. He thumbed the first blank one and read a few more pages, going back and forth between it wondering why it was blank, before words seemed to appear on the pages. What's going on? Is the book made so the ending can't be seen unless you've read it? Reading the newly printed page, he noticed how different the character's attitude was from the beginning, as if a different author wrote it, or as if the character drastically changed from then to the start. Weird book. Naruto noted and started from the front again, reading on. After a while he was able to reach halfway through the book, and the book seemed to grow as he read, pages just never seemed to end. Taking a break and noting his page, Naruto looked at the time, seeing the clock now read 6:30, he decided to go out and buy a few things for breakfast. Cracking the window open, he jumped out and went to the shopping district. Okay, well, I need something sweet, a bit of this, and that. Ooh, that would taste good. Mentally checking everything off, he gets small cart filled up and grabs a flavored water for himself. Getting up to the checkout, he pulls out a rounded amount for the supplies as the cashier rings it up. Grinning, he finds out he was over by only a few ryo and told the cashier to keep the change. After bagging it, he quickly left and took out his water, sipping at it and walking back to Kurenai's home. On the road he saw a few people that stared at him awkwardly. He waved and they seemed dazed and waved back. Smiling, he capped his water and enjoyed the early morning air. Sasuke-kun, let's go on a date. He was enjoying it anyway. Looking back, he saw the two from Kakashi's team, Sasuke and Sakura. Not wanting to be seen, Naruto quickly jumps to the rooftops and speeds up. God, I'd rather play roulette than have to talk to him. Spoiled brat. Jumping down in front of Kurenai's, he didn't notice how Hinata seemed to watch him enter the window, as she saw him get out also, her walk to end from a store down from her complex. Wonder what he's going to do. Maybe I'll visit Kurenai-sensei for lunch. Idly thinking as she walked through the gate and nodded to the branch guard. Father had been less strict since seeing Naruto. What's going on with him? Setting down a few supplies, she got to work on making breakfast for her and her cousin Neji. Sliding the window shut and setting the groceries on the table, he started to put them away, telling himself he'll wake the others with food around 10. Looking at the clock, it was only 7:15, taking only 45 minutes to finish his trip. Thanks to that blasted Uchiha. Taking his time, he pulls his water back out and heads to the couch, taking a drink and laying down after taking his shoes back off. Sighing for his refreshment, he closes his eyes contently, satisfied at how comfy the couch is and how the water slides down his throat. The corner of his eye caught movement in the hallway and instinctively changed to hawk eyes, spying a body in the hallway. Come on out, I can see you. Naruto called, uncaring, taking another drink. Slowly from the dark, Anko emerged from the hallway and sat down in front of Naruto on the floor. Is there something you want? Or are you going to sit there all morning? Shouldn't you be asleep? Naruto asks quickly. Maybe I should be, but I heard a window open and close up. I was checking on it and saw you awake. Shouldn't you be asleep also? Anko remarked. Sighing, Naruto takes another drink. Would if I could, but I can't. What do you really have to say, Snake? Turning his head, he stares at her. Flinching, she turns away slightly before turning back to him. I wanted to thank you for cheering Kurenai up. She seems less stressed out than normal, and if you're the culprit, then thank you. I might be, not sure yet. Taking a drink, he continues. I just like seeing her happy. She's gorgeous, and as of yet I haven't seen her in a down mood. I guess that means I am the reason she's happier. Yay, well, don't let this get to you, but thanks, Gaki. Standing up, Anko kisses his cheek in thanks, and grins wide. Don't let it get to you, but I'll kill ya if you hurt her, Gaki. Taking the path back to the bedroom, she stops in the hallway. I'm glad to hear she's better. She seems so much better than before the mission. Almost like when I first met her. Retreating to the room, she takes her place back on top of Kurenai and falls asleep in seconds. Brat. She, the snake, called me a brat. Issues much. Finishing off his water, he sets the bottle next to his shoes and closes his eyes. With nothing left to do, he meditates. After so long in his trance, he opens an eye to check the time. 9:30, perfect. Stretching and sitting up, he yawns quietly and heads to the kitchen. Taking out all the ingredients for the dishes he's about to prepare, he turns the water on, letting it warm up. Pulling out seemingly random things, from garlic powder to fish, he sets them all on the counter in the middle of the kitchen. There, got everything but the bread for the dango. Quickly grabbing it, he takes out a few pots and pans, spatulas and spoons, a knife, and a fork. Washing his hands to get ready to cook, he starts with the spice. Taking a bowl from the cupboard, he starts mixing all the seasonings he bought along with a few already in the house. Taking out a scroll, he tapped a little bit of a black powder into the mix and churned the powders. Taking a spoon, he tests the spice and deems it good enough for breakfast. Heating the oven and filling a pot with water, he set a pan on the stove and greased it with a little oil. Turning 2 burners on, he set the water to boil and the pan to heat up while he filleted the fish with the knife, tossing strips into the spice mix and into the pan. Opening a bag of rice, he dumps the entire thing into the pot and lets it soften while he tends to some eggs and grabs another pan. To an observer, it would look like her was randomly throwing things and getting lucky with how it all turned out. Slowly Naruto started to hum while cracking the eggs and setting them in the pan. Turning the rice down, he turns and grabs a pinch of the spice and lets it rain over the pot, mixing up the rice with a spoon. Turning slightly, he grabs the spatula and flips the eggs along with the fish. I can see where you are. I can tell you're enjoying it so far. Grabbing the bread, he quickly sets it in another pan to darken, grabbing the sweets to mix with the bread. I would love to escape, but now I am bound by the burn of your eyes looking on as I am starting to realize. Grabbing some peppers and veggies, he starts to chop them up and toss them in with the eggs and fish. Taking the spatula and flipping the eggs to simmer a bit more, he tests the rice. Deciding it needed more, he starts churning it and pinching spice into it. Grabbing some cheese with one hand, he sprinkles it over the pepper-filled eggs and a bit on the fish. I'm a pawn in your game, and this checkmate. Grabbing some lettuce, he drops it with the eggs and turns the burner off, using the spatula to close the eggs, melted cheese holding it together. Taking the pan, he sets it on a pad on the counter. Grabbing the bread and sweets, he mixes them together into larger balls of dango than what he saw the shop sold. Taking another batch of darkened bread, he starts making his famous dango. As the roses lift their heads to catch a glimpse of my demise. Setting all the dango down on a cookie sheet, he sets it in the oven to cook a bit before flipping the fish again. Grabbing another pan, he grabs a steak that he bought and lets the pan heat up with oil, setting the steak in after cutting the fat off. Turning the burner off, he takes the rice and sets it by the omelets. Tending to the steak, he pushes the spatula down onto it, getting the grease out and flips it. You'll be throwing lies around like ocean waves throw down the tides. Grabbing the fish, he checks both sides and pulls the slices onto an empty plate. Scooping up the peppers and veggies and putting them on the same plate. Using the pan for fish, he sets bacon onto it and lets the oil and grease from the fish cook the bacon faster, to a light crisp. Checking back on the steak, he presses the grease out and flips it once more, putting spice on both sides, letting it finish darkening the middle. And they are breaking on my shore, and the rescue team won't save me now, I'm out too far. Taking the dango out of the oven, he takes one and cuts it open to test it, perfect. Taste testing it for himself after letting it cool, he sets them on another pad with the other finished food. Grabbing a plate, he presses the steak and sets it on the plate, putting it with the finished food after double checking it was ready and fat-free. Swiftly turning, he takes the bacon off the burner and turns all the burners off, along with the oven. Setting the bacon down with everything else, he goes into the fridge and grabs some fresh fruit he bought in a bowl. Quote. So I'll waste these nights for a while, but I'll be holding onto you forever. Using the fork to improvise, he somehow squeezes the juice from the oranges into a large jug over the sink. After the jug was filled a third of the way, he adds a bit of sugar and tastes it. Seeing it too strong, he adds a touch of water from the faucet and tastes it again. Nodding, he sets a lid on the jug and puts it with the food. He cuts it up and sets it on a plate by itself for now. Quote. And this is where my heart is cold and torn, and as I read the words you wrote last night, the butterflies are creeping through my spine. Quote. Cutting the steak in two, he puts each on a plate, splitting the fish and bacon along the two plates. Taking an omelette for each plate, he sets one on a third as well. Taking rice, he puts a large portion on the plate with the lone omelette, using the rest on the last two plates. Splitting the dango in 3 equal portions, he even out all the plates. Taking 3 glasses out, he puts a wedge in each glass and fills one with orange juice, setting it with the seemingly empty plate. Putting a wedge with each piece of steak and fish, he squeezes the last one in his orange juice and tosses the peel in the trash. Looking over at the time, it took a while to make the food, it now said 11:15. Shrugging, Naruto cleaned up the dishes for 15 minutes and went to the bedroom door, which was mostly closed, and knocked softly on the door frame. Hey, breakfast is ready, you two hurry up before it gets cold. Getting back to the kitchen, he sets up forks for everyone and sits at his spot, tasting his omelette and grinning to himself. Slowly he heard shuffling and some fighting. Before long he saw the two coming in, stretching and yawning the whole way. Well, now this smells delicious, Naruto. Kurenai smiled at him and sat in one of the seats while Anko took the other. How did you manage to make all of this? I didn't even have some of it here. She questions, looking to him for an answer. Kinda snuck out and went shopping. Taking a quick bite of his omelette, he continues. Well, are you both going to sit there and stare, or try it? Looking over, he saw Anko hesitate. Looking across the table, Anko watched with bated breath as Kurenai took a bit of the fish and tried it. Hearing Kurenai gasp slightly and grab another bite, she surmised it mustn't be that bad and tried the steak. For minutes all was silent. The only sound was Kurenai cutting her food and munching happily on it, along with Naruto taking a drink of his orange juice. My god. Anko started softly. This is delicious. Anko jumped into her food with gusto as Naruto almost dropped his juice and Kurenai grinned at her friend. Finishing up his omelette, Naruto starts with everything but the dango on his plate, working his way across the plate. Anko quickly poured some juice and took a sip. Damn, even home squeezed OJ. Anko murmured and took to the fish. Kurenai poured some as well and took a few sips before getting back to meal with vigor. Mentally, Naruto was chuckling to himself from the two women's reactions. Is it really that good? He asks himself as he shrugs and take a bite of dango. Grinning to herself, Kurenai was wondering if she should make him a permanent resident for her household right now. This was the best meal she's ever had since her mother made her dinner when she was a kid. Anko was jealous. Beyond that, she Kurenai right now. He can cook. This dango is heavenly. Oh, my god, she so has a keeper. Damn, I'd love to have met him first. Quickly she eyed the boy in question intently. Even lasting only a second, she concluded a few things. Good looker too, doesn't look like he'd be bad in bed, damn her. Taking to her food once again, she swore she let out a moan. Raising an eyebrow at hearing the snake moan from his food, he looked back at Kurenai, who, like a chain reaction, moaned right after her friend. Sweet dropping. Naruto finished his meal and rinsed the plate, standing at the counter and drinking his juice and hums a bit more. Looking up, Kurenai couldn't help but feel happy. She found this guy nice, sweet, good looking, and can cook. It's like she won the lottery for dates. A knock interrupts the peace of the atmosphere in the room and Naruto excuses himself to go get the door. Getting to the door, he turns the lock and opens it quickly, asking a polite, "Yes. How may I help you?" to a somewhat tall, bearded man with a fire handkerchief on his waist. "And who the hell are you?" the man yells out. Seeing another man in Kurenai's house was not what he was expecting. "And who the hell are you? Should I know that voice? Looks like your lover is back." Anko teases the Crimson Eyes Jonin. "Damn it, it was such a good morning too. I'll be right back." Getting up quickly, not knowing what could happen, she turns around the corner. Looking around, Anko snickers and steals a dango from her plate as she has yet to touch them. Asuma. "Of what do I owe the pleasure?" Kurenai asks with light sarcasm as she wedges in front of Naruto, who just moved back and held onto the door for a second before going and pouring more juice. "Who the hell is that?" Asuma asks, barging in and sitting on the couch without taking his shoes off, tracking dirt through her white carpet. Scoffing, Kurenai glares at him. What does it matter who he is? Closing the door knowing he won't leave without answers, she sit across from him. "I come to visit and that guy comes and opens the door, that's what it matters." "Why is he here? You said you're not planning on dating anyone while you refused my date before your mission." Asuma looked at her angrily, starting to pull a cigarette out. "Don't you dare. You do and you'll never be allowed here again. As for why he is here, he had nowhere to stay last night and I met him a while back, he's getting a new house today. I thought I would let him sleep on the couch, and make me an Anko breakfast." Kurenai saw Asuma scoff at Anko's name. "Yay, you're right, I wasn't planning on it, and nobody says me and him are dating." "So then you're not dating that guy? Good." Asuma grins and is about to ask her on a date. "Actually, I never said we weren't either. Not that it's of any concern to you." Grinning when she sees him scowl, she continues. "Now, as I said, I'm eating. If you'd like, you can wait outside until I'm done, or we can try and talk another time." Asuma. "Nah, I'd rather stay right here and keep an eye on you." Asuma crosses a leg over his knee and leans back. Sipping at his juice, Naruto stares as Anko still is munching ferociously on her dango. "If you like it that much, I can make you more later too, SNA. Anko-san," Naruto commented without looking at her. Swallowing the bit in her mouth, Anko looks at him with surprise for calling her by name. "Really? Damn Gaki, I'd love that. This is better than the shop down the street, good," she answered while shoving half of another oversized dango in her mouth. "Thanks, I think," Naruto replies while glancing at her, and taking another sip of juice. "You know, I mean what I said last night. You hurt her and I'll kill you, you got that?" Anko said with killing intent, sent at the boy, who to her surprise only raised an eyebrow. "Going to have to do better than that. Pretty protective. You got a crush on the rose." Naruto couldn't help but grin at her blush. "Either way, it's good she can have a friend like you. There might be hope for me yet, maybe." Naruto sombers up a bit at the end. "Hey now, what do you mean by that, Gaki?" Anko asks, eating her dango in a dignified manner, until realizing it was dango and shoving it into her awaiting maw. "Well, with that snake's mark on you, and your curse for it, she doesn't seem to hold it against you at all, so maybe my own curse won't be held too highly in consideration." This got Anko to stop eating. How do you know about that?" "I smell of snake, I get that. How did you surmise what you did with just that?" Anko asked nervously, somewhat fearful of this man. "It doesn't take a genius. Just like it doesn't take one to see how much you hate him and what he's done, or how you're not associated with him in any way. Anko sighed as he said this. But how will that help you? Well, I'd tell you, but I have no reason to right now. Naruto debates telling her. His curse, she knows the same fate with that snake, but then again she might do what the others did before. Try me, you dug up my past, spill it brat, or I'll make you. Chuckling, Naruto looks at her in all seriousness, with a hint of humor in his voice.